This is Paul Daugherty from the Morning Line at Substack.com. I was asking these guys, Paul does a daily show or a show a couple of times a week that has to do with gambling. It's called Not Too Picky. And so what he has done is created, I think it's a great idea, Betting 101, where he walks people through what are point spreads, what are over-unders, all those kinds of things. And I asked him the question, is there anything on his conscience right now that he believes he could be in part leading to people becoming common degenerates? Do you think that that's a real possibility, or that he has any hand in that, or should feel any guilt in that?
Hell yeah, he's like an old guy giving a 12-year-old his first beer.
Well, I've been guilty of that.
that starts him on his way to a life of debauchery and crime.
Boy, I mean, you got a hell yeah right out of the gate, Paul. I mean Doc is a wise man.
At least we're trying to help people do it the right way and understand what it is, so on January 1st, they're not just throwing money into the wind, which you might be doing anyway. I don't know.
So you give the 12-year-old a shot at Jack Daniels and tell him not to get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
I got a 17-year-old still at home. Maybe I'll run that by him later tonight. All right, Doc, I want to ask you a little bit about this game against New England. There have been a lot of articles written just in the last week after that debacle that happened at the end of the game last week and the loss to the Raiders, where, they're throwing the ball around like the old Stanford Cal thing, and it's intercepted the last play of the game. Chandler Jones runs it in for a touchdown. And everybody talking about Bill Belichick and what is going on there. I think all of us agree universally. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that could disagree that he's the greatest coach in NFL history. But he had Tom Brady there. Do you think any of his legacy at all has been tarnished since they're 24-23 since Brady walked out the door?
No, I'm going to disappoint you on this one, Tom. And this debate's been going on for a while. I don't think that either one of them misses the other. In other words, I'm not saying that very well. I don't think that we can say that Belichick is diminished as a coach because he doesn't have Brady, the same way we can't say Brady as a quarterback is diminished because he doesn't have Belichick. I thought that they had the best symbiotic relationship in the history of the NFL. I mean, we can look back at the dynasties. Look at San Francisco. Bill Walsh had Joe Montana, but I believe he also had Steve Young. The Steelers of the 70s had Terry Bradshaw. They also had arguably the best defense in the history of the league. Brady and Belichick pretty much had Brady and Belichick. One would not have been who he was without the other. I can't say that, Belichick would not have been as good without Brady, nor can I say that Brady would not have been as good without Belichick. They complemented one another beautifully. For Belichick, Brady gave Belichick not only that super cool persona, nobody else comes back from 28-3 down at halftime in the Super Bowl, but Tom Brady. He gave Belichick an invaluable intangible, Tom, in that he was the hardest worker on that team for that generation. And Belichick never had to worry about the locker room when he had Tom Brady. He knew that Brady was going to lead by example, and players are like children most of the time. They won't listen to their parents, but they will listen to their peers. And nobody had a better peer than Tom Brady. On the other hand, Tom Brady didn't draft players. He didn't cut players. He didn't sign free agent players. He just benefited from all that. That was Belichick's deal. Every player you ever talked to over the years about making a transition from one team to the Patriots will say the same thing. And that there is a level of expectation in New England that exceeds everywhere else they played, in terms of the preparation especially. But also, you're in New England now. We do things our way. We're pretty good at it, and if you don't like the way we do things, we can find another place for you. There was no other organization in football during their time together where they had that kind of authority to say that. We're the Patriots. We have a way. You're lucky to be here. And if you don't do it the way we want you to do it, we'll find somebody else. And they were able to win with all kinds of guys, from total team guys like Brady to guys like Randy Moss, Corey Dillon. They all came in and they bent to Bill. I don't know you can say that about too many other coaches in the history of the game. So anyway, long answer, short question. I don't see either guy as benefiting or losing out from having or not having the other. They needed each other equally.
But let me ask you this then. That's all fair and makes perfect sense. I don't think that anybody could disagree with those points. But if a player can come to the end of the line, and obviously most of the time this is due to age and father time catching up with you, sometimes it can be injury. Can a coach start to decline?
Sure, absolutely. And maybe we're seeing that with Belichick. He'll be 71 in April, Thom, and he's been at this night and day for a very, very, very long time. It's only normal for that to happen. Coaches burn out just like players get knee injuries, and maybe that's on him. That disastrous play the other day had the league, or at least fans, laughing at the New England Patriots. I don't remember the last time anybody laughed at the New England Patriots, and that was what was happening. And Belichick's famous attention to detail was nowhere to be found on that play. Sure. At age 70, after all the years he's put into this, entirely possible that age has caught up to him.
Well, where he's catching the most heat is, he is always, and there's a fabulous article. I've got to go back. I read it this morning. There's a fabulous article written by somebody who covers a team for Yahoo Sports. And it wasn't coming after Belichick. Basically, the premise of the story was Robert Kraft needs to start treating Belichick the way Belichick treats players. And what he meant by that was, in summation, is that Belichick has always said, famously, just do your job, number one. And number two is we're always going to do what's best for the team. They've cut players, like Lawyer Malloy comes to mind. They're cutting guys like the season opener who have been Pro Bowl players, and they're running this guy out. They're bringing this guy in. They rarely ever draft anymore because they trade away picks, blah, blah, blah. All that's well documented. But the premise of the story had to do with Matt Patricia, who over the last number of years was the head coach for the Detroit Lions. He left New England as defensive coordinator to take that head coaching job. Belichick brings him back, and as a defensive guy makes him the play caller and the offensive coordinator, and that he has stunted the growth, potentially the growth, of the quarterback Matt Jones. I think that's a fair criticism.
I think it's absolutely fair because Matt Patricia was a lousy head coach in Detroit. Belichick brought him back and put him in a situation that I'm not sure he's ever been in. He's a defensive coordinator. At least that's where he made his reputation. And he puts him on the other side of the ball to coach a young quarterback. That smacks of grand Bill Belichick arrogance. I can do that and nobody else can because I'm Bill Belichick and I know what I'm doing. In terms of Kraft stepping in and saying this is not working, I think that makes perfect sense. And I would also say good luck with that, Bob. Belichick has been Belichick for a long time and been very good at it. And to try to tell him what to do and how to do it at this stage of the game, you can try. You are the owner. But good luck with that.
Do you think this game has all the makings of that proverbial trap game for the Bengals, or do you think that this team and this franchise is beyond that now? They have their sights set on bigger things, and there's not going to be at least a mental letdown. You're going to have physical mistakes, But you know, that the Bengals are a different breed now than they once were.
I don't think any team is beyond a trap game, Tom. I think any team is through the course of an 18-week season, any team is going to ride the emotional ups and downs. Some teams are good enough, the talent gets them through. I mean, the Bengals went through it in Cleveland, played a terrible game in Cleveland not too long ago. This game has that potential. Of course, we said the same thing last week. It didn't happen. Once again, they got a few more guys hurt. They're going to be on the road in a hostile weather environment for sure against another desperate team. If Belichick can't get his team's attention now, given what happened last weekend and the fact that they're 7-7, I don't know what can. I think it's a really dangerous game. I picked the Bengals to lose twice all year, Tom. I might pick them to lose this one too, just because human nature being what it is, you can't be great every week of an NFL season, nor can you be completely healthy and great every week of an NFL season. I think there's big potential for them to lose this game, and really, in the big picture, so what? It might be good if they lose a game at this stage, but I definitely think the potential is there. New England has a really good defense. Cool. The offense not very good. Defense is really good.
The Pro Bowl players and rosters were announced yesterday. I mentioned earlier 3 Bengals are there. No surprise. Burrow and Chase. A little bit of surprise from me, Hendrickson, but you know, that's just me. I am really surprised. Even though he missed a few games this season injured, I'm really surprised that DJ Reader and T. Higgins are not Pro Bowl players. Are you surprised? And a lot of people argue Jermaine Pratt the same, but the linebacking position has changed so much. They're looking at sacks instead of just regular linebacker play as we know it as old-time guys.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by either. I don't think you could give a Pro Bowl nod to a guy who's missed 6 games. I mean, it's not DJ Reader's fault he was hurt, but he's missed 6 games. You know, and they've only played 14, so miss almost half a year and get a Pro Bowl nod ahead of other. No, that one didn't surprise me. It's not that he's not a really good player or that he hasn't helped them a lot since he came back. He has. I mean, look at the numbers that their defense has put up against the run when after Reader's return. The other one, Higgins, I don't know, Tom. Jalen Waddle didn't make it either. He has better numbers than T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
T. Higgins is not better than Tyreek Hill. He's not better than the kid in Buffalo. I don't know. No, that one didn't really surprise me. I think he suffers from the fact that he plays with 2 other guys that are pretty damn good. You know, when you have Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase on your team, you're not going to get as many balls as you might have gotten if you don't have one or both of those guys. A little surprised, by Chase. His numbers don't suggest that he's a Pro Bowler. He's a great player, and he was hurt too a few games. But if you look at his numbers, there are guys with better numbers that didn't make it, including T. Higgins. So, given that there's not even a game anymore, and these guys are probably glad that they didn't make it. You know, I'm like, wow, I get to have a week off instead of having to go to Orlando or wherever the hell they play that game now, and be in skills competitions, right? Wow, can't wait to see that.
2 other topics I want to hit before we let you get out of here. You wrote in the morningline.substack.com yesterday about the situation I had asked you about involving the media and Giovanni Bernard. I don't know if you saw, but the young lady, the reporter, I believe her last name is Lane, and I even responded to her on Twitter today. She came out with a very long apology that she went back and looked at everything that happened. She went to Giovanni Bernard and apologized to him before she posted anything on Twitter, which that's a welcome change in pace just in and of itself. But I admire the fact that she stood up to the whole thing, said I screwed up and I'm sorry, and we'll try to move on.
Yeah.
You have any reaction to that she did that, or none
Oh,
whatsoever?
I'm sorry. Yeah, people in this business, in the journalism business, say you really don't want to know how the sausage gets made, and that's true in a lot of cases, most of which don't see the light of day. The problems I had with her were not that she asked the question to Gio after the game in terms of his role in screwing up that fake punt. That's a question that had to be asked. Nobody's going to fault her for that. The problem was that she didn't like the answer. Giovanni Bernard might be obligated after a game or a couple times a week in the locker room to answer questions from the press. He's not obligated to give them the answers they want. That incident and the fact that they chose to run all of it, all the video, had such a kind of a gotcha element to it that it didn't do my profession any favors, and makes me understand why a lot of people don't like the media very much. The fact that she apologized for it, good on her. I mean, for all the beating that the press takes in this country, I think to a very large extent, most of the people in the mainstream media are pretty good at owning up to stuff, far more than in almost any other profession you can name, certainly politicians. So the fact that she apologized and then apologized to him personally speaks a lot to her character, and hopefully she learned from that, ask it once and let it go, and life goes on. It's like I said, it's making sausage sometimes, Thom. It's not the prettiest thing in the world.
All right, the last thing I have to ask you about, because inside of our chat on the program, we have hundreds, if not thousands, that are on here, and the only thing they want to talk about is that lid you're wearing today, Keystone Light.
Yes, it is one of my prized possessions, Thom. Not only is it a Keystone Light, but as you might be able to see, it is a Keystone Light hat signed by one Kenny Anderson.
How about
like
that?
Myself, is a connoisseur of the product.
But now, Doc, I got to tell you, one thing, believe me, I am a beer guy. I love drinking beer. And we talk about the different beers on this show on a semi-regular basis. But I thought you had become one of those sort of fancy beer guys, where you go to all these breweries and stuff, and they're making their own stuff with 5 and 6 and 7 and 9% alcohol in it. I thought that was you.
No, I'm a mixture at this point. I'm a big fan of craft breweries. I love Rheingeist, but I can't drink craft beers when I'm cutting the grass, right? I can down a 6 or a Keystone in an hour while cutting the grass and feel like I just had club soda all afternoon. It's a beautiful thing, Thom.
Believe me, it is.
The fact that I go by the name, I like to go by the nickname of Johnny Thin Wallet, and I can still buy a 30-pack of Keystone Light for less than $15. And there's nothing at all wrong with that.
No.
In fact, Kenny Anderson told me once that a certain establishment on Hilton Head Island where he lives would order a couple of cases of Keystone Light every month just for Kenny. How's that? You have swag in your own hometown when the store that you frequent orders a beer just for you.
Amen.
Especially one as fine and rare as Keystone Light.
That's what's being a regular is all about. And you know what? We had asked Kenny Anderson about being on the show last week for our big interview we do on Wednesdays. He was packing up his entire house, sold it in Hilton Head, and is moving back to Cincinnati full time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in fact, I think he's driving right now back today as we speak to be back here for the Christmas holidays. And I told our audience the other day, Tim Crumrye just moved back to town, him and his family.
Yeah, he did. Right.
So
I'm happy to report to Kenny there's no shortage of Keystone Light in the stores around.
All right. Well, hey, look, you remember the beer Buckhorn? Do you remember that beer?
No.
All right. Well, that's, that was a regular for us in college. I thought they made it in Pennsylvania. Buckhorn. That's a man's beer.
Yeah.
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 All
Of
right.
course.
All right, Doc. Have a great weekend, man. Thanks for your time.